I've been a police officer for over 15 years. In that time, I've seen things I can explain and things I can't. Most nights blur together. The drunks, the fights, the noise complaints. But every so often, something happens that doesn't fit in any report. Strange calls, empty houses, voices on radios that shouldn't exist. These are the cases that stay with me. The ones I don't talk about at roll call. The ones that never really ended. Tonight, I'll tell you a few of them.
I've worn a badge long enough to see all kinds of scenes. Fights over nothing, break-ins that make no sense, accidents that look worse than they are. You learn to carry it. Some nights stick to you anyway. I still remember the night we got the call about the house on Maple Lane. The one neighbor swore they heard a fightin'. The dispatcher said it was a domestic disturbance. Nothing unusual. I'd handled dozens of those. But by the time we pulled up, I knew it wasn't gonna be ordinary. The house stood there with its porch light burning steady, curtains drawn, front door slightly open. That's already a bad sign. Open doors mean panic or staging, and neither end well. My partner, Davis, glanced at me and muttered, "Ready?" And we stepped inside.
I expected the usual chaos. Shouting, broken glass, maybe someone holding their cheek, maybe kids crying in a back room. But what hit me first wasn't noise. It was the absence of it. The air inside felt thick, not in a smoky way, but like walking underwater. I said, "Police, call out if you're here," loud and sharp. My voice should have bounced off the walls, but instead it seemed swallowed up, like the house itself didn't want it to echo. Davis frowned, trying the same call, and it came out flat, muted. He looked at me as if my hearing had failed him, but I saw in his eyes he heard it too.
The living room was in order, maybe too much in order. A lamp glowed on an end table. There were 2 coffee cups on the table, still steaming. On the couch, a folded blanket like someone had just risen. No overturned chairs, no broken plates. Just life paused mid-scene. We moved deeper. The kitchen smelled of roast meat and onions, strong enough to make me believe someone had just taken it from the oven. Plates were set at the table. Food sat there, warm enough that steam curled above the potatoes. 2 places, forks ready. The oven door hung open like someone had pulled dinner in a hurry. But there were no voices, no footsteps, nothing. I called out again, louder, forcing authority into it. "Police, step out where we can see you." Still nothing but that heavy blanket of silence. Even the house creaks, the noises old wood usually makes, were gone. It felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain, as though the house had decided to hold its breath. We checked the bedrooms. Clothes laid out across a bed, half folded. A TV was on in the master room, the news anchor moving lips on mute, though the volume dial sat up. I tapped the set, checked the wiring. It wasn't broken. The screen moved, but no sound came out. I don't like admitting when my skin crawls, but it did then. Davis tried the bathroom, came back shaking his head. No one. His voice, too, sounded dampened, smothered by the walls. It was like standing in a soundproof room, except we hadn't left the open house. Basement doors stood ajar. We both felt it, the pull to check, the dread of what we might see. We went down together. Concrete floor, washer and dryer, shelves stacked with canned goods. Everything neat. The single bulb swung overhead, with no draft to move it. I half expected to find someone crouched behind the furnace. Nothing. Just that weight of silence pressing harder, like ears clogged on an airplane.
We regrouped upstairs. I pulled my radio. "Dispatch, Unit 12 on scene. House appears empty." Static. Not the usual chatter, not broken signal, just dead air. I tried again. Nothing. Davis tried his. The screen lit, the mic clicked, but silence came back. Radio's dead inside this house. Outside, the car unit still chirped with traffic, but here, nothing. We did a slow sweep again, careful, methodical. I touched the coffee cup, still hot. I touched the potatoes, lukewarm now, but fresh enough someone had sat down no more than 15 minutes before we arrived. People had been here. People had prepared a meal. And people had vanished. Neighbors reported shouting, a woman's voice raised, maybe a man yelling back. That was 10 minutes before we came. So where did they go? Out the back door? We checked. Door was locked from inside, bolt still set, windows latched. No signs of forced entry or exit. Just gone. Davis whispered, actually whispered, "I hate this." I didn't tell him I felt the same. We filed our report plain. Residents not present upon arrival. House secure, no contact. What else could we write? You can't write, "Sound disappeared." You can't put in official language. The air itself swallowed our voices. The report went into the system. A routine call closed. But that house never sat right with me. Every time I drove past Maple Lane, porch light still burning, curtains still shut, I thought about the steaming plates of food, the muted TV, the missing voices. Weeks later, I asked around. Neighbors said the family never returned. Relatives out of state came, collected clothes, paperwork, left the house locked. They gave no answers, just packed what they could and drove away. No for sale sign ever went up. To this day, the windows stay dark. But sometimes, if you walk past at night, you see that porch light still glowing, steady, as though someone's still home. And maybe that's the worst part. I've been to crime scenes soaked in blood, accidents twisted with metal, places where the evidence screams at you. Those are easier. You can name what happened. You can point to it and say, here's the cause, here's the effect. But silence you can't measure. Silence that bends the rules you've known all your life. You can't write that down. You just carry it, hoping one day your ears will stop ringing with the sound of nothing.
Most nights on patrol blur together. A string of quiet streets, drunk drivers, noise complaints. You remember the big calls, the ones with violence or tragedy. But every so often, something happens that doesn't fit in either category. It doesn't feel like a crime scene. It doesn't feel like a false alarm. It just sits in a place between, and you carry it with you whether you want to or not. It was around 3 in the morning, one of those shifts where the radio's mostly dead and you fight sleep with bad coffee. Dispatch came through with something odd. Caller reports a child standing alone on the South Bridge. Female, maybe 10, wearing a light dress. Davis was riding with me again. He looked over and raised an eyebrow. At 3 a.m.? I shrugged, already turning the car. Kids run away, maybe got into a fight at home. We both knew it didn't sound right. The bridge wasn't far. It cut across the river that split the town, 2 lanes of asphalt with a steel guardrail. Usually by that hour it was empty, just the hum of water below.
When we pulled up, the headlights caught her. She stood right at the midpoint of the bridge, facing the water. Small frame, pale arms, dressed fluttering in the wind off the river. Her hair hung loose and dark, hiding most of her face. For a second, I thought she might be sleepwalking. We parked, lights still on, and got out slowly. "Hey there," I called, trying for calm. "You okay? You shouldn't be out here alone." My voice carried across the asphalt, but she didn't turn. Not a flinch, not even a glance. Davis muttered Jesus under his breath, and we started walking. I called again. "We're police officers. We can take you somewhere safe. What's your name?"
This time she moved, just a small tilt of the head, like she'd heard me. I could see part of her cheek, pale in the headlights. She gave the tiniest nod. Then, in the space of a blank, she was gone. I don't mean she ran. There was no motion, no sound of footsteps. 1 second she was there, the next there was empty air and the rail behind her. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on a staircase.
I ran forward, peered over the rail. Water moved below, black and endless, but no splash, no ripples, no figure. Nothing. Davis was right behind me, breathing hard. "You saw that?" It wasn't a question. I nodded. We stood there a long minute, scanning the river, the banks, the dark road behind us. No sign of her. We called it in anyway. Units searched both sides, walked the river path with flashlights. Nothing. Not a footprint, not a scrap of fabric. Back at the station, the report was impossible to write. Arrived on scene, observed juvenile female standing on bridge, disappeared from sight. It read like a bad joke. We marked it unable to locate. That's as close as the system lets you get to. We don't know what the hell we saw. I couldn't shake it. For weeks, I kept replaying it in my head. The stillness of her body, the slight nod, the way she just ceased.
A month later, on a slow night, I was digging through old case files. Boredom, curiosity, call it what you want. I searched for incidents near the bridge. Took me back decades, and there it was. A missing child, reported in 1984. 11 years old. Last seen walking home from a carnival. Never made it. The case went cold. No leads. The last place anyone could confirm seeing her was the South Bridge. The photo in the file showed a girl in a light dress, long dark hair hanging around her face. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Same size, same posture, the same age the caller had described. I closed the folder, put it back on the shelf, and didn't speak of it again. Not to Davis, not to anyone. What would I say? That 30 years later, a child missing from a cold case nodded at me and vanished? That some part of her is still standing out there in the night, watching the river? Most nights I drive past that bridge without looking. But sometimes, when the air is heavy and the water below is restless, I swear I catch sight of a figure at the midpoint. Small, still, waiting. And when I do, I don't stop. I don't get out. Because the first time, she nodded at me. And I don't want to know what happens if she ever shakes her head.
You get used to prank calls working in dispatch. Kids messing around, drunks breathing heavy into the line,
people reporting shadows as burglars. 90% of it you filter through. But once in a while, something cuts right through the noise. It was late, close to 2 in the morning, when the radio crackled with a transfer from dispatch. They'd taken a call, short, faint, almost a whisper. A woman's voice said, "He's already in the house," and the line went dead. That was it. No address given, no details. Just those words. But the system still traced a location. An apartment complex on the east side. Unit listed under an old number. Me and Davis drove out. The place was one of those blocks built in the 70s, long hallways that smelled of dust and cigarette smoke, most of the doors shut tight with neighbors pretending not to notice anything. We found the unit. Door locked, chain still fastened from inside. No forced entry, no pry marks. We knocked. "Police, call out if you can hear us." Silence. We forced the lock and stepped inside. The smell hit first. Stale, old, like cardboard left in a basement. Dust coated every surface. Floor creaked under our boots, sending up little clouds. No furniture, except a table tipped on its side and a few empty boxes. The weird part? In all that dust, there were tracks. Not old ones, fresh. Clear outlines of shoes walking from the doorway into the living room, stopping by the wall. And they just ended. No turn, no back step, no continuation. Just stopped, like the person vanished into thin air.
We swept the place top to bottom. No sign of anyone. No phone, no cables. I checked the socket where the old landline should have been. Wires cut, long dead. Davis tested the radio to call it in. Dead air. We left shaken. Filed it as unable to locate caller. Another weird case, but not much to stand on. Except it didn't stop. A week later, same thing. Dispatch flagged a call. Same faint woman's voice. "He's already in the house." Same location, same disconnected number. We went back. Same locked door, same dust, same tracks leading nowhere. The only difference? They were in a different place this time, like someone had walked a few steps further before vanishing. This went on for months. Not every week, but enough. Always the same voice, always the same words.
One night, I stayed after shift and dug through records. The apartment had been empty for over a decade. Last listed resident, a woman who'd filed multiple domestic disturbance calls. In one, she'd said, "My husband is in the house. Please, he's going to kill me." The file ended abruptly. No follow-up, no closure. Just an empty folder.
Now, whenever dispatch calls out a faint female voice, I feel my chest tighten. Because sometimes I think she's not warning herself anymore. She's warning us. And the worst part is, I don't know if she's too late every single time, or if the real danger is that one day she'll say something different.
Cemeteries at night are not where most cops want to be. It's not the dead that bother you. It's the living. Teenagers sneaking in with booze, vandals knocking over stones, people using the dark for things they don't want seen. I'd responded to enough calls like that to know it was usually boring, sometimes ugly, but never anything I couldn't handle. Until that night. Dispatch flagged a trespassing report at Greenwood Cemetery. Neighbors had complained about lights moving among the graves, the sound of metal clanging. It was just past midnight, cold enough that our breath steamed in the air. I pulled up with Davis, headlights sweeping across the wrought iron gates. Inside, the paths twisted among rows of old stones, some so weathered you couldn't read them anymore. We walked in with flashlights. Gravel crunched under our boots. For a while it was quiet, just the sound of wind and the occasional owl. Then we both froze. A bell rang. Not a phone, not a chime from a house, a deep metallic toll, muffled by distance. It came from the center of the cemetery, slow and steady. 1 pause. 2 pause.
Greenwood had an old brick chapel with a belfry that hadn't been used in decades. Kids dared each other to climb it, but the bell inside was supposed to be cracked, impossible to ring. Yet here it was, sounding clear as church on Sunday. We followed the sound, beams bouncing across marble angels and crooked crosses. Every step closer made the toll heavier in my chest. When we reached the chapel, the bell gave one last ring and then stopped.
The doors were padlocked. Dust caked the hinges. No sign anyone had been inside in years. Davis circled the building with his light, jaw tight. "No way," he muttered. We climbed the narrow steps to the belfry. Boards creaked underfoot. When we got to the top, the bell hung there, black with age, split clean down the middle. Impossible to move, let alone ring. Our lights played across the beams, the ropes dangling in tatters. Empty. No kids hiding, no pranksters pulling a cord.
We stood in silence, breathing hard, when the sound came again. One single bong. Not from above, not from below, from right behind us. Davis swore and spun his light, but nothing was there. Just dust, brick, and that lifeless bell.
We didn't wait around. Filed it as unfounded complaint, like we always do when the truth won't fit in a box. But even now, years later, I swear when I close my eyes I can hear that last toll, not from a distance, from just over my shoulder. And every time I drive past Greenwood at night, I check the clock, because if the bell rings again, I'm not sure it'll stop at 1.
Police radios are supposed to be reliable. They cut through storms, static, concrete walls. You trust that voice on the other end, because in this job it can mean the difference between life and death. But radios carry more than voices. Sometimes they carry things they shouldn't. It was around 3 a.m., slow shift, nothing moving on the streets. Me and Davis sat in the cruiser, half awake, trading bad coffee for worse jokes. The radio was quiet, except for the usual dispatch chatter. Then it came through. A voice. Male, rough, panicked. "Officer down, need backup, need help, bleeding out, please." The transmission broke in and out, but the desperation in it was sharp enough to cut glass.
We straightened up, adrenaline kicking. Dispatch didn't say a word. No acknowledgement, no call sign. Just silence. Then the voice again, clearer this time. "They got me. I'm hit. I can't breathe. Send someone, please." Coordinates rattled off after that. An open field on the north edge of town. No houses, no roads leading in. Just farmland gone to seed.
We didn't question it. When a cop calls for help, you move. Sirens off, lights out, we headed straight there. The place was empty. Our headlights swept across waist-high grass. No car, no blood, no signs of struggle. We got out, radios still hissing with static. Unit 12 on scene, I said. Negative contact. Do you copy? Dispatch came back, calm as ever. Unit 12, we didn't send anything. No officer in distress. I clicked my mic. We heard it. Multiple transmissions. Coordinates given. Long pause, then nothing on record.
That's when the voice cut through again. Faint, but sharp, overlapping both our radios. Too late. Too late. I don't scare easy, but I felt my throat tighten. We swept the field with flashlights, searching for tire tracks, footprints, anything. Nothing. Just grass whispering in the wind.
Back at the station, I checked the recordings. Our log was blank. The channel had been inactive all night, according to dispatch, but I know what I heard. Davis heard it too. Weeks later, curiosity got me digging. There was an old case, long before my time, 15 years back. A patrol car ambushed on the north edge of town. Officer killed in the field, alone. His calls for help garbled by radio failure. Backup found him hours later. Too late. Every now and then, on quiet nights, the radios crackle. A burst of static, a voice cutting in. Help! Please! They got me. Always on the same channel, always pointing to that same patch of empty field. And I can't help but wonder if it's just interference or if some part of that night is still transmitting, stuck on a loop that won't end until someone finally answers in time.